Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship and stared at the screen before him. His long fingers tapped against the armrest of his command chair. The Empire had explored space for 50,000 years. They had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had never met a species that could stand against them. Until today, they had never seen anything like this. The objects floated in space, forming a perfect barrier around an entire region of the galaxy. They were small, no bigger than a cargo pod, but there were thousands of them. Each one blinked with a soft blue light. Each one transmitted the same message in every language the Empire had ever encountered. "What does it say again?" asked his communications officer. The officer looked at his console and read aloud. "Terran space is prohibited. Do not enter. This is your only warning." Lee laughed. It was a cold sound that echoed across the bridge. "Terrans. I have never heard of them, have we?" His second officer checked the Imperial database. "No records, Admiral. The word appears to be from an old Earth language. Earth is a small planet on the other side of this prohibited zone. The species there are called humans." "Humans," repeated. He pulled up information on his personal screen. "It says here they only left their home planet 300 years ago. 300 years." He laughed again. "We were building star cities when their ancestors were still living in caves." The bridge crew joined in his laughter. It seemed absurd. A young species, barely out of their home system, daring to tell the Empire where they could and could not go. The warning buoys suddenly seemed less mysterious and more insulting. "Send this data back to the High Council," ordered. "Let them decide what to do with these arrogant children." On the home world, the High Council gathered in their great chamber. 100 of the Empire's most powerful leaders sat in circular rows around a central platform. Chief Strategist stepped onto that platform and displayed the images from Admiral's ship. "They call themselves humans," explained. "They claim an entire sector of space as their own. They have placed these warning devices all around their territory." What are their military capabilities? Asked one council member. Brought up more data. Limited. They have some basic warships. Their weapons are standard plasma and missile systems. Their shields are adequate but nothing exceptional. By our estimates, they have perhaps 500 military vessels spread across 30 colony worlds. Another council member spoke up, and they dare to prohibit us, the Empire. It appears so, said with a thin smile. I believe they are trying to appear strong. Young species often do this. They puff themselves up like scared animals, hopping to avoid conflict. The council debated for hours. Some argued for caution. Perhaps these humans had hidden weapons. Perhaps they had allies. But most agreed with, the humans were clearly bluffing. No young species could stand against the Empire. Emperor, ancient and proud, made the final decision. We will ignore their prohibition. Send a fleet to claim the worlds within their space. If they resist, destroy them. The galaxy must learn that no one dictates terms to the Empire. The council voted. The decision was unanimous. Far away, on a human colony called New Haven, Captain Jake sat in his office and read the morning reports. New Haven was a farming world, peaceful and quiet. Jake had served in the Terran Defense Force for 20 years, but he had never seen real combat. Most days, his job involved checking supply shipments and making sure the orbital station ran smoothly. His communication console beeped. The face of Admiral Kate appeared on the screen. She looked serious. Jake, we have a situation, Kate said without greeting. Unknown ships are gathering at the border. Lots of them. Jake felt his stomach tighten. How many? 12 large vessels. Our sensors show their military grade. And Jake, they're on the wrong side of the warning buoys. Have they crossed into our space yet? Not yet, but they're getting ready to. I'm putting all border stations on yellow alert. No aggressive actions, but I want everyone ready. Jake nodded. Understood. What about the civilians here? No evacuation yet. We don't want to cause panic, but have your emergency protocols ready just in case." The screen went dark. Jake sat back in his chair and looked out his window at the peaceful colony below. People were going about their daily lives, farming, building, raising families. They had no idea that alien warships were gathering at the edge of human space. He thought about the warning buoys. Every human knew about them. They had been placed there over a century ago, forming a complete barrier around all human territory. Everyone who passed through the military academy learned about them, but most people didn't know the whole truth about why they were there. Jake did know. He had the security clearance. He knew what humanity was really capable of. He knew what waited behind those defenses if anyone was foolish enough to test them. The warning buoys weren't a bluff. They were mercy. He opened a secure channel to his defense station. "This is Captain. All personnel report to stations. This is not a drill. Activate protocol, watchman." His crew responded immediately. They had trained for this day, even though most of them never believed it would come. Protocol watchman meant one thing: someone was about to ignore the warnings. Jake pulled up the sensor data from the border. The alien ships were massive, far bigger than anything humanity built for civilian use. But size didn't matter. Not anymore. Not with what humanity had hidden away for the past 200 years. He wondered if the aliens knew what they were about to face. He wondered if they had any idea that humanity's visible fleet was just for show. Every ship they could see, every defense station, every weapon platform was obsolete technology, kept running specifically so that alien species would underestimate them. The real human military had never been seen by outsiders. It waited in hidden bases, in asteroid fields, in the deep spaces between stars. It waited with technology that would seem like magic to most of the galaxy. And it had waited patiently for over a century, hoping this day would never come. Jake looked at the alien ships on his screen one more time. They were moving now, heading toward the warning buoys, heading toward human space, heading toward a mistake that would cost them everything. Admiral Jake said into his comm, "They're crossing the line." Kate's voice came back, calm and steady. "Confirmed. All stations maintain yellow alert. No hostile actions. Let them come deeper. Let them think they're winning." Jake understood. The humans would let the aliens feel confident. They would let them believe the warnings were empty. And when the aliens were committed, when they had gone too far to turn back, humanity would show them the truth. The warning buoys continued to transmit their message into the void. But the fleet ignored them and pushed forward into Terran space. The Empire's arrogance had just sealed its fate. The fleet moved through space like a pack of predators. Admiral watched the tactical display with satisfaction. His 12 battle cruisers had crossed the warning line 3 hours ago. Nothing had happened. No weapons fire. No defending fleet. Just empty space and silent warning buoys. "I told the council these humans were bluffing," said to his officers. "They put up their little signs and hoped we would be scared. But the Empire fears nothing." His navigation officer pointed to the display. "Admiral, we are approaching a human colony. The planet is called Sterling's World. There is a defense station in orbit." Studied the station. It was small, perhaps 1/10 the size of his flagship. It had basic weapons and shields, nothing that concerned him. Only one station. Where is their fleet? No fleet detected, Admiral. Just the station. Felt a moment of doubt. This seemed too easy, but he pushed the feeling away. Young species often made foolish decisions. They probably thought one station would be enough to scare him off. "Open a channel to that station," he ordered. "Let us see if they will surrender without a fight." On Defense Station Sentinel-7, Commander Lisa sat in her command chair and watched the alien ships approach. She had been in the Terran Defense Force for 15 years. She had trained for this exact situation. But training was different from reality. Her hands wanted to shake, but she kept them steady. Commander, they're hailing us," her communications officer reported. "Put it on screen." The face of Admiral appeared. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and large dark eyes. When he spoke, the translation software turned his words into English. "Human station. I am Admiral of the Empire. You are in violation of Imperial space law. Surrender your station immediately and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with destruction." Lisa took a deep breath. She had her orders. She knew what to say. "Admiral, you have entered Terran space in violation of our prohibition. You passed warning buoys that clearly stated the consequences. I am ordering you to leave immediately. This is your final warning." He laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Your final warning. Little human, look at my fleet. Look at your single tiny station. You cannot stop us. Surrender now or die." "I will not surrender," Lisa said calmly. "And I will not die, but you will regret this decision. Leave now, Admiral, while you still can." His face darkened with anger. "You dare threaten me? Fire on that station. Teach these humans some respect." The communication ended. Lisa watched as the ships charged their weapons. Bright energy built up along their hulls. Then they fired. Beams of superheated plasma struck Sentinel-7 from 3 directions. The station shook. Alarms blared. But when the weapon's fire cleared, the station was still there. Its shields had held. Lisa allowed herself a small smile. "Return transmission to the fleet. Audio only." When the channel opened, she spoke clearly. "Admiral, you have now committed an act of war against humanity. I am transmitting your coordinates to Terran Defense Command. You have approximately 4 minutes before you learn why our space is prohibited. I suggest you use that time to pray to whatever gods your people believe in." She cut the transmission, stared at his screen in confusion and growing concern. His weapons had barely scratched the human station. That should not be possible. His ships had the most powerful weapons in the known galaxy. "Concentrate all fire on that station," he ordered. "Full power." All 12 battle cruisers opened fire at once. The space around Sentinel-7 lit up with energy. For 30 seconds, the bombardment continued. When it stopped, the station was still there. Its shields hadn't even failed. "This is impossible," whispered. "How are they doing this?" His sensor officer's voice was shaking. "Admiral, I'm detecting something. Multiple contacts incoming fast, very fast." "What contacts? Where?" "Everywhere, Admiral. They're all around us. On Earth, in the underground headquarters of Terran Defense Command, General Ben Parker watched the situation unfold. The command center was filled with officers, all monitoring different aspects of the defense network. Large screens showed the fleet, now surrounded by targeting data. General Amy stood beside him. She was the chief of strategic operations, the person who had spent 20 years preparing for this exact moment. "They actually did it," Amy said quietly. "They ignored the warnings. They attacked one of our stations." Ben nodded. "I hoped we would never have to do this. I hoped other species would see the warnings and stay away. They are arrogant. Their empire has never lost a war. They couldn't imagine that anyone could threaten them." Amy looked at Ben. "Orders, General." Ben took a deep breath. "Activate Protocol Nightfall. Non-lethal engagement. I want their ships disabled, not destroyed. We're not murderers." Amy nodded and spoke into her communication device. "All units, this is. Protocol Nightfall is active. Engage the fleet. Disable only. Repeat, disable only." In the space around Sterling's world, the human response began. Captain Hayes stood on the bridge of the TDS Retribution. His ship had been waiting in stealth mode, invisible to sensors. Now it was time to appear. "Drop stealth," ordered. "Let them see us." The Retribution materialized on sensors like a ghost becoming solid. It was huge, twice the size of the largest battle cruiser, and it wasn't alone. Within seconds, 70 more human warships appeared around the fleet. They had been there the whole time, watching and waiting. Lieutenant Grant, the Retribution's tactical officer, checked her weapons. "All systems ready, Captain. Targeting solutions locked on all vessels." "Oh, do not fire yet," said. "Hail them first. Give them one last chance." Admiral's screens suddenly showed the human fleet. His face went pale. Where did they come from? How did they hide from our sensors? Before anyone could answer, every screen on every ship displayed the same face. Admiral Kate appeared, her expression calm and professional. "Admiral, I am Admiral Kate of the Terran Defense Force. You have attacked our station. You have ignored our warnings. You have entered our space with hostile intent. I am giving you one opportunity to surrender. Power down your weapons and engines. Do this now, or my fleet will do it for you." His pride wouldn't let him accept defeat. Not from these young humans. Not in front of his entire crew. "We are the Empire," he shouted. "We do not surrender to primitives. All ships fire at will." The fleet opened fire on the human ships. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the two fleets. It was an impressive display of firepower. None of it worked. The human ship's shields absorbed every hit without even flickering. It was like throwing stones at a mountain. "Return fire," Hayes said quietly. "Disable their ships." The human fleet fired once. Just once. The weapons were unlike anything they had ever seen. They didn't explode or burn. Instead, they sent out waves of energy that passed through the shields like they weren't even there. The energy struck the ship's power systems and shut them down completely. In 4 minutes, it was over. All 12 battle cruisers floated dead in space. Their engines were offline. Their weapons were offline. Their life support was the only system still working, kept active by the human weapons by design. Not a single had died, but their fleet was completely helpless. Admiral Kate appeared on screen again. "Your crew will not be harmed. We will tow your ships to a neutral location where you can contact your empire for rescue. But understand this, Admiral. What you just witnessed was mercy. We could have destroyed every ship in your fleet in seconds. We chose not to kill you. Remember that when you report back to your leaders. Tell them the warnings were real. Tell them that Terran space remains prohibited. And tell them that if they send another fleet, we will disable it just like we disabled yours. We do not want war, but we will not tolerate aggression. I sat in his chair, staring at the screen. His ship was dead. His fleet was disabled. And worst of all, the humans had made it look easy. They hadn't even seemed worried. He thought about the High Council. He thought about Chief Strategist and all his confident predictions. He thought about how the Empire believed humans were primitive and weak. They had been wrong, terribly, catastrophically wrong, and knew that when he reported this defeat, the Empire's arrogance would not allow them to accept it. They would send more ships. They would escalate instead of backing down. The humans had shown mercy today. Wondered if they would show mercy again when the Empire came back with its full military might. The news of the fleet's defeat reached the home world 3 days later. Emperor sat on his throne and watched the recording that Admiral had sent. He watched his proud battle cruisers fire uselessly at human ships. He watched those same battle cruisers fall silent and dead in a matter of minutes. When the recording ended, the throne room was silent. 100 council members waited for their emperor to speak. Chief Strategist stood frozen, his face showing shock and disbelief. "How is this possible?" finally asked. His voice was cold and dangerous. "You told us they were weak. You told us they were primitives." Stammered. "The intelligence was accurate, my emperor. Their visible fleet consists of old technology. We saw it clearly in our surveys. We don't understand where these new ships came from." Obviously, they were hiding them, another council member said. "The question is why, and what else are they hiding?" Stood from his throne. He was ancient, over 300 years old, and he had ruled the empire for most of that time. In all those years, no one had ever defeated a fleet. The very thought of it made his blood burn with rage. "Send a message to Admiral," he commanded. "Tell him he has disgraced the Empire. He will be stripped of rank when he returns. As for the humans," he paused, his fists clenching, "we will show them what happens when someone challenges power. Mobilize the full fleet, every ship, every soldier. We will crush these Terrans and make an example of them that the entire galaxy will remember." The council erupted in discussion. Some argued for caution. Perhaps they should try diplomacy first. Perhaps they should learn more about human capabilities, but would not listen. The Empire's pride had been wounded, and pride demanded blood. On Earth, in a secure briefing room, Colonel presented his analysis to the Terran Defense Council. Was the director of Terran intelligence, and he had been studying the Empire for months. "They're going to escalate," said, displaying star maps and data on the large screens. "Our psychological profile on Emperor indicates he cannot accept defeat. He will see our defensive action as an insult that must be answered with overwhelming force." General Ben Parker frowned. "How much force are we talking about?" "Everything they have. Best estimates put the military at around 4,000 warships. They've been building their fleet for centuries, conquering other species and adding their ships to the Empire." General Amy leaned forward. 4,000 ships. That's a lot more than the 70 we used at Sterling's World. "We can handle it," another general said. "Our technology is 200 years ahead of theirs. We proved that." He shook his head. "It's not that simple. Many of those 4,000 ships aren't crewed by. The Empire conquered 24 other species. Those species provide crews for much of the fleet. If we destroy those ships, we'll be killing slaves who had no choice but to serve." The room fell quiet. This was the problem humanity had always tried to avoid. They didn't want to be conquerors or killers. They just wanted to be left alone. "What do you suggest?" Ben asked. Pulled up another set of data. We know which ships are crewed by subjugated species. We have communication intercepts, crew manifests, everything. I propose we contact these species directly. Tell them what's about to happen. Offer them a choice. What kind of choice? Stand down when the battle starts, and we'll help them gain independence from the Empire. Continue fighting for and they'll share the Empire's fate. Amy smiled. You want to split their fleet before the battle even starts. Exactly. The Empire is built on fear and oppression. If we show the subjugated species that humanity is stronger than many of them will abandon the Empire. We can win this war without firing most of our shots. Ben considered this. It was a good plan, but there was risk. What if some of them refuse? What if they stay loyal to the Empire? Then we disable their ships, same as we did to fleet. Dr. Rachel White's team has been working on enhanced, non-lethal weapons. We can knock out entire battle groups without killing the crews. How long until the fleet arrives? 3 weeks, maybe 4. They need time to gather their forces and travel here. Ben stood up. All right, you coordinate the diplomatic outreach. Amy, work with Rachel on the weapons. I want every option on the table. And someone get Commander Kate in here. If anyone can convince alien species to trust us, it's her. Commander Kate arrived at headquarters 2 days later. She was a specialist in the study of how alien species think and behave. She had spent years learning the languages and cultures of species throughout the galaxy. You want me to convince 24 different species to betray their empire, Kate said after hearing the plan. That's not a small task. Can you do it? Ben asked. Kate thought about it. Maybe. Most of these species were conquered against their will. They serve the Empire because they have no choice. If we can prove that humanity is strong enough to protect them, some will switch sides. How do we prove it? Show them the recordings from Sterling's world. Let them see how easily we defeated a fleet. But more importantly, show them that we didn't kill anyone. That's crucial. The rule through fear and brutality. If we show that humanity offers a better way, it might work. Over the next 2 weeks, Kate and her team sent secret messages to the leadership of every subjugated species in the Empire. The messages included recordings of the battle, translations in their native languages, and a simple offer: freedom in exchange for standing down. The responses varied. Some species agreed immediately. Others were skeptical. A few refused outright, too afraid of punishment to risk betrayal. But slowly, carefully, Kate built a network of species willing to help humanity. Meanwhile, Dr. Rachel White and her engineering teams worked around the clock. They had already developed weapons that could disable ships without killing their crews. Now, they needed to scale that technology up to handle thousands of targets at once. The problem is power, Rachel explained to Amy during a lab tour. Our disable weapons work perfectly on individual ships, but against a fleet of thousands, we need sustained firing capability. That requires reactors we haven't built yet. How long to build them? 2 weeks if we work day and night. But General, there's something else. Rachel pulled up a holographic display. I've been analyzing the fleet composition. Even with our non-lethal weapons, disabling 4,000 ships will take time. If they spread out and attack multiple targets simultaneously, we might not be able to protect every colony. Amy studied the display. What do you recommend? We need to force them into a single engagement. Make them commit their entire fleet to one location. Then we can hit them all at once. How do we do that? Rachel smiled. We make them angry. We make Emperor so furious that he brings every ship he has to crush us personally. And then we spring the trap. Amy liked this idea. I'll talk to Ben. You focus on getting those weapons ready. As the weeks passed, the Empire gathered its massive fleet. Emperor himself would command the armada from his personal flagship, the Crown of Stars. He wanted to witness the destruction of humanity with his own eyes. The subjugated species watched and waited, some prepared to switch sides. Others stayed loyal to the empire, either from genuine belief or fear of punishment. The galaxy held its breath. On Earth, humanity made its final preparations. Every ship was armed and ready. Every colony was on high alert. The trap was set. All they needed now was for them to walk into it. Captain Jake stood on the bridge of the TDS Valor, his new command. He had been promoted after the defense of New Haven. Now he was part of the main fleet, preparing to face the largest military force humanity had ever encountered. Captain, his tactical officer Lieutenant Sam Brooks said, "Long-range sensors are picking up the fleet. They just entered our detection range." How many ships? Sam checked his display. His face went pale. "All of them, sir. The entire military, 4,200 vessels. They're heading straight for us." Jake took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would decide whether humanity's strategy worked or whether they would have to fight the bloodiest battle in their history. "Alert the fleet," Jake said. "All ships to battle stations. And someone tell General Parker that the Empire is coming." In the command center on Earth, alarms began to sound. The screens showed the massive armada approaching like a storm. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history, all of it aimed at humanity. General Ben Parker watched the display and felt the weight of command. Millions of lives depended on the decisions made in the next few days. He thought about diplomatic efforts. He thought about Rachel White's weapons. He thought about all the planning and preparation. "This is it," Amy said beside him. "Everything we've built for 200 years comes down to this moment." Ben nodded. "Send the signal to Kate. Tell her to activate her contacts. It's time to see if our diplomatic approach worked. And if it didn't, then we fight. And we pray that Rachel's weapons are enough." The Armada pushed deeper into Terran space, confident in their numbers and their Emperor's leadership. They had no idea that humanity had already begun to dismantle their fleet from within. Commander Kate sat in a small room aboard the diplomatic ship Messenger. Around her were screens showing 20 different alien faces. These were the leaders of the subjugated species, the ones who had agreed to help humanity. This meeting was happening in secret, encrypted so heavily that not even the Empire's best intelligence officers could detect it. The Armada will reach human space in 6 hours, Kate said in fluent, then repeated it then in a dozen other languages. This is your last chance to confirm. Will you stand with us? One of the faces, a commander named Vex, spoke first. My people have served the Empire for 200 years. They conquered our world and forced us to crew their ships. If humanity can truly protect us, we will disable our vessels and surrender to your fleet. But you must promise our safety. You have my word, Kate said. Humanity does not enslave. We do not conquer. We only defend. When this is over, your people will be free to govern themselves. A leader named spoke next. Her voice was musical, almost like singing. The Empire will punish those who betray them. If you cannot defeat Emperor, he will hunt down every species that helped you. He will make examples of us. He won't get the chance, Kate said firmly. You've seen the recordings of what our ships can do. They are no match for our technology. Trust us. This is your opportunity for freedom. One by one, the leaders confirmed their commitment. Out of the 24 subjugated species in the fleet, 18 agreed to stand down. 6 refused, either from loyalty or fear. It was better than Kate had hoped for. Good luck, Commander, Vex said. We are trusting you with everything. Don't let us down. The screens went dark. Kate sat back and let out a long breath. She had done her part. Now it was up to the military to do theirs. On the crown of stars, Emperor watched the tactical displays with satisfaction. His fleet was magnificent. 4,000 warships stretched across space in perfect formation. No force in the galaxy could stand against such power. A chief strategist stood beside the Emperor's command throne. He had been quiet since the defeat at Sterling's World, afraid of saying the wrong thing. But now he had to speak. My Emperor, perhaps we should try to communicate with the humans one more time. Offer them terms of surrender. It would save lives and resources. Turned his head slowly to look at. His eyes were cold. Save lives. They humiliated our fleet. They made the Empire look weak. The entire galaxy is watching to see how we respond. If we offer mercy now, every subjugated species will think they can rebel. Every enemy will think they can challenge us. No, we will show no mercy. We will destroy every human colony. We will burn their worlds until nothing remains but ash and memory. Said nothing more. He knew that tone in the Emperor's voice, had made up his mind, and nothing would change it. The Emperor's pride demanded total victory. In the Terran Defense Command Center, General Ben Parker watched the fleet approach. His staff moved efficiently around him, coordinating the defense. Admiral Amy stood at the tactical table, moving holographic ship markers around. They are heading for station, Amy reported. They're concentrating their fleet. They want to hit us all at once. Good, Ben said. That's exactly what we want. If they spread out and attacked multiple colonies, we'd have trouble protecting everyone. But if they bunch up for one big attack, we can handle them. Colonel joined them at the table. Kate just confirmed. 18 species are ready to stand down. That's about 2,600 ships that will drop out of the fight, leaving about 1,600 still hostile, Amy calculated. That's more manageable, but still a lot. How are Rachel's new weapons? Ben asked. Ready, Amy said. We've installed enhanced disable systems on all our capital ships. We can engage multiple targets simultaneously. But, sir, we're going to need time. Even with our technology, disabling 1,600 ships will take at least an hour of sustained combat. Then we hold them for an hour, Ben said simply. No matter what it takes. Captain Jake received his orders aboard the TDS Valor. His ship would be part of the vanguard, the first line of defense against the Armada. It was an honor, but also terrifying. Even with superior technology, facing 4,000 enemy ships was enough to make anyone nervous. "How are the crew holding up?" Jake asked Lieutenant Sam Brooks. Sam checked his internal sensors. Heart rates are elevated across the board, but everyone is at their stations. "They're ready, Captain." Jake nodded. He felt the same nervousness in his own chest, but he trusted his training. He trusted his ship. Most of all, he trusted that humanity's hidden technology was as good as everyone said it was. "All ships, this is Admiral Kate," a voice came over the fleet-wide channel. "The fleet will arrive at station in 30 minutes. Remember your training. Stay calm. Follow your orders. And most importantly, trust your ships. Human technology has been waiting 200 years for this moment. It won't fail you now." Jake felt reassured by her words. Admiral had proven herself at Sterling's World. If she said they could win, he believed her. The minutes ticked by slowly. The fleet appeared on long-range sensors, a massive cloud of ships that filled the screens. They weren't trying to hide or be subtle. They wanted humanity to see their numbers and feel fear. Captain Hayes stood on the bridge of the TDS Retribution. His dreadnought was the largest ship in the human fleet. It would be the tip of the spear, the first to engage the enemy. "Captain, the fleet is hailing us," his communications officer reported. "And put it through." Emperor's face appeared on the main screen. He looked older than the recording suggested, with deep lines around his eyes and mouth. But those eyes burned with fury and pride. "I am Emperor of the Empire," he announced. "You have attacked our ships. You have challenged our authority. For these crimes, your species will be erased from the galaxy. Surrender now, and I will allow some of your people to live as slaves. Refuse, and every human in existence will die." Looked at the Emperor calmly. I am Captain Hayes of the Terran defense ship Retribution. Your empire crossed into our space against our warnings. Your admiral attacked our station without provocation. We defended ourselves, and we will continue to defend ourselves. You should leave, Emperor, while you still can. Laughed a harsh sound. Leave. I have 4,000 ships. You have barely 300. Your arrogance is astounding. We will crush you like insects. Your 4,000 ships won't help you, said. Some of them don't want to fight for you anymore. Some of them have realized that serving an empire built on slavery is wrong. And some of them are about to make a choice that will end your reign forever. What are you talking about? Smiled. You'll see in about 3 minutes. Haze out. The screen went dark, turned to his tactical officer. What did he mean? What happens in 3 minutes? I don't know, my emperor. All ships are reporting ready for combat. Our formations are perfect. On 1,800 ships throughout the fleet, crews made their decisions. These were the ships crewed by subjugated species, the ones Commander Kate had contacted. They had been waiting for this moment, hoping that humanity could truly offer them freedom. Aboard a battleship, Commander Vex gave the order: power down all weapons, disable our engines, broadcast surrender signal to the human fleet. His crew obeyed without hesitation. All around the Armada, hundreds of ships suddenly went dark. Their weapons powered down. Their engines shut off. They became dead weight, floating in space. Emperor watched in horror as his fleet began to fall apart. 2,600 ships stopped functioning. Nearly 2/3 of his armada had just betrayed him. What is happening? He screamed. Why are they powering down? A chief strategist checked his console, his face pale. My emperor, those are all ships crewed by subjugated species. They're surrendering to the humans. Surrendering? How dare they? Order them to power back up immediately. They're not responding to our commands. My emperor felt rage unlike anything he had ever experienced. The subjugated species were slaves. They existed to serve the Empire. How could they betray him? How could they choose to side with these weak humans? Fine, he snarled. We don't need them. We still have 1,600 loyal ships. All vessels advance and attack. Destroy every human ship you see. Show no mercy. The remaining ships, all crewed by actual rather than conquered species, moved forward. 1,600 battle cruisers against 300 human vessels. The odds still seemed to favor the Empire. But the odds were about to change dramatically. Admiral Kate gave the order from her flagship. All ships engage at will, disable enemy vessels. I repeat, disable only. We are not here to commit genocide. The human fleet moved with precision that shocked the. Every ship knew exactly where to go, exactly what to do. It was like watching a dance that had been rehearsed for centuries. And in a way, it had been. Humanity had been preparing for this battle for 200 years. The first wave of ships fired their weapons. Massive energy beams and missile strikes filled the space between the fleets. It was the most concentrated firepower in galactic history, all aimed at the human vessels. The human shields absorbed every hit. Not a single ship took damage. Then humanity fired back. Dr. Rachel White's enhanced weapons had been installed on every ship in the fleet. They weren't designed to kill. They were designed to shut down every system on an enemy vessel except life support. And they worked perfectly. The first salvo disabled 300 ships. The second salvo disabled 300 more. Within 10 minutes, half of the remaining fleet was floating dead in space. Emperor watched his armada die. Ships that had served the Empire for centuries were being turned into lifeless hulls, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Retreat, he finally screamed. All ships retreat. But it was too late. The human fleet had them surrounded. There was nowhere to run. The battle near station lasted exactly 47 minutes. When it was over, every single warship floated lifeless in space. Not one had been destroyed. Not one crew member had been killed, but the entire military might of the Empire had been neutralized. Emperor sat on his command throne aboard the crown of stars, staring at screens that showed nothing but failure. His ship was dead like all the others. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows across the bridge. His crew sat at their stations in shocked silence. How, whispered, how is this possible? Chief strategist had no answer. He had built his entire career on understanding military strategy and predicting enemy capabilities. But nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. The humans hadn't just won. They had made it look easy. A communication request appeared on the backup systems. The human fleet was hailing them. Answer it, said quietly. His rage had burned out, leaving only hollow defeat. Admiral Kate appeared on every screen throughout the fleet. Her face was calm, almost kind. She didn't look like a conqueror. She looked like a teacher about to explain something to a student who hadn't been paying attention. Emperor, she began, your fleet is disabled. Your crews are safe. We have not killed anyone and we do not plan to. But you need to understand what just happened here. Said nothing. What could he say? Kate continued. 200 years ago, humanity made first contact with another species. They were called the architects. They were ancient, peaceful, and incredibly advanced. They had been watching the galaxy for thousands of years, waiting for younger species to mature enough to join them. She paused, letting this information sink in. The architects saw potential in humanity. They saw that we valued life, that we preferred peace to conquest, that we could be trusted with powerful technology. So they began sharing their knowledge with us. Slowly at first, then faster as we proved ourselves worthy. On the crown of stars felt ice in his stomach, the architects. He had heard legends of them, ancient stories passed down through history. They were supposed to be myths, fairy tales told to children. Everything you just witnessed, Kate said, is based on technology the architects gave us. Our faster-than-light drives, our shields, our weapons, our ability to disable ships without killing their crews. All of it came from them, and all of it is centuries beyond what your empire possesses. Why finally spoke? Why did they choose you and not us? Kate's expression softened. Because your empire is built on conquest and slavery. The architects only share their knowledge with species who use it responsibly. They've been watching the empire for 50,000 years, hoping you would change. But you never did. You conquered, you enslaved, you ruled through fear. That's why they never contacted you. The words hit like physical blows. His entire life, his entire reign, had been based on the belief that the empire was the greatest civilization in the galaxy. But they weren't. They were children playing with primitive tools while humanity had access to powers beyond imagination. What happens now? Asked. Now you face consequences, Kate said. You will be transported to a neutral location where representatives from all the species your empire has oppressed will decide your fate. You will be tried for war crimes, for slavery, for countless acts of violence across the galaxy. Your empire is finished, Emperor. The species you conquered are free now, and they will build something better than what you created. The transmission ended. Sat in silence, watching human ships approach. They were coming to tow his vessel away, to take him to face justice. Part of him wanted to fight, to go down in battle rather than face humiliation. But there was no fight left in him. He said to his strategist, "You were wrong about everything." He nodded slowly. "Yes, my emperor, I was." Captain Jake stood on the bridge of the TDS Valor and watched the aftermath of the battle. Medical ships were already approaching the disabled vessels, preparing to transfer anyone who needed care. Engineering teams were checking life support systems. Humanity was keeping its promise. No one would die today. "Sir," Lieutenant Sam Brooks said, "I'm getting reports from the subjugated species ships. They're asking permission to power back up. They want to help with the recovery efforts." "Tell them yes," Jake said. "They're free now. They can do what they want." Sam smiled. They're already organizing. Commander Vex from the ships is coordinating with our medical teams. It looks like they're eager to prove themselves as allies. And Jake nodded. This was good. Humanity didn't want subjects or servants. They wanted equals, partners, friends. If the freed species wanted to help, that was a step toward building real relationships. On Earth, General Ben Parker stood in the command center and watched the celebration around him. His staff was cheering, hugging each other, crying with relief. They had won without losing a single ship, without killing a single enemy. It was the most perfect military victory in human history. General Amy walked up beside him. We did it. Ben, everything we planned for 200 years worked exactly as designed. Almost, Ben said quietly. We still have to deal with the aftermath. The Empire controlled 300 star systems. Now those systems need new governments. The subjugated species need help rebuilding. This isn't over. In some ways, it's just beginning. Amy nodded. But at least the fighting is done. We can focus on building instead of destroying. I hope so, Ben said. I really hope so. Commander Lisa, the officer who had commanded Defense Station Sentinel-7 during the first attack, found herself in command of the boarding action on Emperor's flagship. Her Marines moved through the crown of stars carefully, treating the defeated with respect rather than cruelty. When they reached the throne room, Lisa saw the Emperor for the first time in person. He looked small and old, nothing like the fearsome ruler she had imagined. He was just a person who had made terrible choices and now had to face the results. Emperor, Lisa said formally. I am Commander Lisa of the Terran Defense Force. You are under arrest for war crimes, slavery, and unprovoked aggression against humanity. You will be treated fairly and given a chance to defend yourself at trial. Do you understand? He looked at her with tired eyes. I understand, Commander. I will not resist. Two Marines stepped forward and gently took his arms. They led him away from his throne, away from his power, away from everything he had built. Behind him, chief strategist and the other senior officers were also arrested. The leadership of the Empire walked out of their ship as prisoners. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy changed rapidly. The species that had been enslaved by the Empire formed their own governments. Some chose democracy. Others chose councils. A few chose to remain as small kingdoms, but all of them chose freedom. Humanity offered aid without asking for anything in return. Human engineers helped rebuild damaged colonies. Human doctors treated the sick and injured. Human teachers shared knowledge freely. And slowly, the freed species began to trust that humanity was different from the Commander Kate found herself working as a diplomat full-time. She helped negotiate treaties between the new governments. She mediated disputes. She explained human culture to aliens and alien culture to humans. It was exhausting work, but deeply satisfying. "We're building something new," she told General Ben Parker during one of her reports. "A coalition of equals. No empires. No slaves. Just cooperation and mutual respect." "That's what we always wanted," Ben said. "Peace and partnership." "Some species are still cautious," Kate admitted. "They've been burned before, but most of them are willing to try. They have already signed a defensive alliance with us. They want to establish trade agreements. It's happening, General. It's really happening." 6 months after the battle, the trial of Emperor began. It was held on a neutral world, with judges from 20 different species. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Thousands of witnesses about the Empire's crimes. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Was found guilty on all charges. But the sentence surprised many. Instead of execution, he was given life imprisonment. The judges explained that killing him would make him a martyr. Better to let him live and watch everything he built crumble into something better. Captain Jake attended the sentencing. He wanted to see the end of the story he had been part of. When was led away to his cell, Jake felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and sadness. The Emperor had been a threat, but he was also just a person who had never learned to see beyond his own power. A year after the battle, humanity finally revealed the full truth to the galaxy. They explained about the architects, about the 200 years of hidden development, about why they had put up the warning buoys in the first place. The revelation caused shock and some controversy. Many species were angry that humanity had kept such powerful technology secret, but others understood. If humanity had revealed their capabilities too early, every aggressive empire in the galaxy would have targeted them. The warnings had been necessary protection. And then the architects themselves appeared. Their ships materialized in orbit around Earth, massive vessels that made human dreadnoughts look like toys. But they didn't come as conquerors. They came as friends, finally ready to introduce themselves to the wider galaxy now that humanity had proven themselves as responsible guardians of their technology. The architect's spokesperson, a being of pure energy that called itself Harmony, addressed the galactic community. "We have watched this galaxy for a very long time," Harmony said. "We have seen empires rise and fall. We have seen species destroy themselves with their own greed. But we have also seen species grow, learn, and become better. Humanity has done this. They received power and used it for defense, not conquest. They defeated an empire and chose mercy over vengeance. This is why we chose them. And this is why we now offer our technology to any species willing to use it responsibly." The galaxy would never be the same after that day. 10 years after the Battle of Station, Captain Jake retired from active service. He settled on New Haven, the colony he had defended all those years ago. He built a small house on a hill overlooking the farms and forests. Sometimes at night, he would sit on his porch and look up at the stars. The warning buoys were still there, still transmitting their message. But now everyone in the galaxy knew what they meant. They weren't threats. They were promises. Terran space remained prohibited, but not because humans were hostile. It was prohibited because humanity had learned that sometimes the best defense was making it clear that attacking would be pointless. The empire was gone. In its place were dozens of free societies, cooperating and trading and building something new. The galaxy was healing, and humanity, the young species that everyone had underestimated, had become the unexpected guardians of peace. Jake thought about Emperor sometimes, sitting in his prison cell, forced to watch as the galaxy became everything his empire could never be. It seemed like fitting punishment. Not death, but irrelevance. A ship passed overhead, one of the new vessels built with technology shared by the architects. Jake smiled. The future was bright. The fighting was over. And humanity had achieved what they always wanted: to be left alone in peace, secure in the knowledge that anyone who threatened that peace would face the same lesson they had learned. They had been warned, and the warning had proven true. Jake raised his glass to the stars and whispered, "To peace, and to the arrogance that finally taught the galaxy to respect it." The stars twinkled back, silent witnesses to a new era. An era where young species could grow strong without being crushed. An era where empires built on slavery could fall. An era where humanity, the once primitive species from Earth, stood as proof that mercy and strength could exist together. Terran space remained prohibited, and the galaxy was better for it.